Good evening. Welcome to Expat Insights. I'm your host Raju Mandhia. And here at Expat Insights, we take external views of internal successes by foreigners, expats, and immigrants who have made Philippines their home. Tonight, we are very, very lucky because we have a guest from the land that is much more down under than the down under land. The ambassador of New Zealand, Ambassador Reuben Levermore, is here to tell us about his country and how our relationships can grow. So, ladies and gentlemen, today our guest, the Ambassador of New Zealand, Ambassador Levermore on Expat Insights. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Raju. Thank you very much for having me on your show.
Well, it's my pleasure. It's really my pleasure to have you here. I've never had an ambassador who's younger than me on this show.
Never?
Never, sir. So, sir, start telling us a bit about yourself before you tell us about the country.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I work for the New Zealand Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade, so I'm in the diplomatic service. And I joined the service when I finished university in 1999. And I have worked both in Wellington, our capital city in New Zealand, and offshore in Brussels and in London as well. And I spent my last 3 years in Wellington working as the advisor to our trade minister. And I arrived in Manila on the 31st of January, so I've been here 3 months. It's been a great time so far.
All that you just told me was on your resume. Is there something else that you want to tell us about yourself, sir?
What would you like to know?
I don't know. Tell me. Surprise me.
Well, let me see. Well, I grew up in the South Island of New Zealand in a small town called Blenheim. Only 20,000 people, so very small in Filipino terms.
Wow. Yeah.
And you know, we have a country that is about the same size as the Philippines, but with a lot less people.
Yeah, I know.
So very different experience, I guess, growing up in a place like that compared with a big city like Manila. I was educated in Christchurch, which is the main city in the South Island. Still only 300,000 people, where we had an earthquake last year. Yeah. And then my professional life in Wellington. I'm the oldest of 6 children. A Catholic family, so I feel very comfortable here in the Philippines.
All right. Sir, it's a beautiful country, and I've seen pictures of it, never been there, been to Australia, I know, so they say it's much more prettier and cleaner and more pristine than Australia. So a day in your life as a kid in the city that you grew up in, what was life like back in the 90s, 80s?
Sure. Well, I guess one of the memories for me growing up in New Zealand, and this would be the case, I think, if I was living in a small town or in one of the cities, children spend a lot of time outside. There's a lot of freedom.
In New Zealand?
Yeah, very, very safe environment generally. Yeah. We're a very outdoors-focused people, and we like to exercise and do sport, and we're very lucky to have, as you say, you know, a beautiful country with a lot of scenery. So, you know, I was able to take advantage of that when I was young with my parents, walking in the forests,
the woods,
or just playing sports with my friends.
Really?
That's a strong part of our culture. So those, I guess, those are memories for me growing up in New Zealand.
So I hear, I read somewhere, it claims that the total population of New Zealand, only 5% are human beings. The rest are the birds and the bees and the animals. No?
I haven't heard it expressed like that before, but you may well be right.
It might be. So my question is, how far away is your nearest neighbor when you grew up? Are they like far apart, clustered?
Well, you're not talking about Australia, right?
No, I'm talking about New Zealand.
No, it's we tend to have because there's not so much pressure for space. You know, people tend to have properties with a garden, and they will have more space between the houses. The roads are wide, so this is something that you become used to. If a New Zealander is going into the big cities overseas, we love to travel. So a lot of New Zealanders go to Sydney, London, now increasingly in Asia to find opportunities for work and to travel. But it's quite different being in a very built-up area from back home.
Me, and I think many of the Filipinos who watch this show, we grew up in the cities, and if you've been to the provinces and smaller cities of Philippines, they're also very congested. I mean, it's a beautiful country, but the cities somehow haven't grown well, unlike New Zealand. So it's a good thing for us to hear that, hey, there's space out there, and people can walk about and run about, no?
And you know, you're right about the population. A lot of people are aware that there are more sheep in New Zealand than there are people. At one stage we had 75 million sheep. I think we have about 40 million now, but that's about 10 sheep per person. So, you know, growing up in New Zealand, when you travel through the countryside, it's normal to see a lot of sheep in the fields. And this is something that's normal to us. For visitors, it's quite a novelty. But, you know, that rural space that we have is put to good use. Farming is one of the big industries. It's the backbone of the country in many ways. It makes us a little bit unusual for a developed country to have such an emphasis on farming.
Wow.
But that's very much a part of the national identity.
I'm going to show a video on New Zealand, and so people can see what it looks like before we talk a bit more about it. But recently I watched the show, and there was a lady being interviewed, and she got this company called New Zealand Ice Cream Company. Is that right?
Yes, I think so.
And she's doing very well globally. So are you aware of that business?
I think the company is called New Zealand Natural.
Oh, that's correct. Yeah.
Yes, and the logo's got this scenery of New Zealand mountains, and it's beautiful ice cream. In fact, I think that they are here in the Philippines as well.
They are already here?
So that's great.
Okay. So, Ambassador, now about your trip, your foray into the Philippines. Tell us what you like about the Philippines, besides the people.
Well, that's interesting you say that, because that is the first thing that I would mention.
Yeah, everybody says it.
They do, but I think there's a lot of truth in that, you know. I mean, I knew that before I had come to the Philippines. The Filipino people are known all over the world as very warm and friendly people. So that was my first impression. I guess moving away from that, I mean, one of the other impressions I've had is that the Philippines is a beautiful country.
Yeah.
You know, I talk about New Zealand having a lot of natural assets, the mountains, the lakes. We might have more space, but the Philippines has some wonderful scenery itself.
Correct.
And I've only had limited opportunity in my short time here to experience that. I travelled to Bohol a couple of weeks ago. I'll be looking to travel.
The Chocolate Hills? Yeah.
I saw the Chocolate Hills and the Tarsiers, and I went snorkeling. And all of those things for a New Zealander overseas are great experiences. We love doing that sort of thing. I think the Philippines has got a huge amount to offer for tourists, and I'm looking to, you know, travel widely through the country. I've got a 3-year assignment here, so I'm looking forward to seeing more of it.
Well, did you have another posting before Philippines? Did you say that?
Yeah, I was posted in Brussels, in the EU capital.
Not as an ambassador.
Not as an ambassador, no.
So this is your first ambassadorial posting, yeah?
Yes.
So your first impact or impression of this country when you come in, or at least an experience interacting with the Filipinos. Can you share a story on January that happened? Might have happened.
Well, we had, you know, I had. One of the earliest experiences for me was meeting the President, in fact, because as an ambassador I present my credentials as part of the formal protocol to be accepted as ambassador here. And we had a conversation, a very easy conversation. And I think that, you know, what I would say about New Zealand and the Philippines and our relations is they're very warm and friendly. That might not surprise you, but it's a very easy relationship, and it's one I think that's going to become more important into the future. So that was one of my first formal conversations with the Philippines government, starting with the President. And, you know, I hope that sets the scene for my time here. I don't think that there are problems between us. There are opportunities. And so that's a very good basis for me on which to start.
I think both countries, New Zealand and Philippines, have problems with no other countries, really. I mean, we are happy and we are doing our own thing for the longest time, except for the fact that we were both ruled by other nationalities before. So, Ambassador, I'll line up the video clip on New Zealand, and then we'll come back and talk to you about what's happening at the trade and the social, cultural level between Philippines and New Zealand.
Thank you very much, Raju.
So let's line up that video right now. Okay, it's coming up. Good evening. Welcome back to Expat Insights. I hope you enjoyed that beautiful view of the country from which our guest is tonight, and I wish to be there someday. And he's going to make arrangements so that I can go there soon. So, Ambassador, thank you very much. Lovely country. Very jealous of it.
Thank you very much, Raju. We would welcome you to visit New Zealand soon.
It's not that I don't love my country. I do, but I love that one too. So, Ambassador, now tell us what's happening between Philippines and New Zealand in terms of trade and potentials for growth of that trade.
Well, we have a well-established trading relationship with the Philippines. The Philippines is New Zealand's 14th largest trading partner.
It is already.
And the ASEAN bloc, in which Philippines is a member, is the 4th largest trading partner of New Zealand. Our trade consists mostly of dairy products. So milk products, for example, that you would find in the supermarket here in the Philippines. Many of those are New Zealand in origin. And we import a lot of bananas from the Philippines and electronic products as well. But I think what you're seeing increasingly is not just that trade in products, but you're also seeing that New Zealand companies are coming to the Philippines to offer services, for example, in the energy sector or in IT. We have companies that are up here in the Philippines or companies that are in New Zealand. Or companies in New Zealand that connect with Philippines companies over the internet or remotely. So that modern face of business is one where I see a lot of potential for expansion. We have a trade agreement with ASEAN, which was concluded in 2010. And that provides us with a great opportunity to expand our trade over the coming years. So I'm very excited about that.
How many New Zealand business people are in this country? Would you know?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I mean, I've asked myself the same question. I mean, my job here as ambassador, I don't know exactly. You know, because it's not compulsory for people to have to sign up with the embassy. But my job as ambassador, it's very important that I connect with our business people and that I help them as much as possible. So, you know, we have a lot of our businesses operating from New Zealand, maybe with a small staff here in the Philippines. Or we have individuals up here, or smaller companies. So we have quite a diversity of companies. And, you know, I wouldn't say that there are large numbers of New Zealanders here. We think there could be around 1,000 New Zealanders living in the Philippines. And, you know, we have a very active business council, a Philippines-New Zealand Business Council. And the idea there is really to connect the Philippines business people with the New Zealand business people here in Manila and to network and create opportunities to boost trade.
Two questions, Ambassador. Of the 1,000 citizens that are here, are there any names that ring a bell? Like, is there a bank or a large corporation that's really a Kiwi company?
Sure. Well, I guess the company that has probably the highest profile, but it's not a brand name here, would be Fonterra, our dairy company. But you would find that Fonterra's products are probably branded by different companies here in the Philippines, including Alaska, one of the milk companies here. You have some of the corned beef products will rely on beef imported from New Zealand. And this is the nature of a lot of our trade. Much of it comes into the Philippines and it's processed into food products that have Philippines brand names.
So they put their own brand on it.
So it's really a collaborative business relationship.
So nothing big established, and they're not really making their presence felt yet.
I don't think you'll find, you know, New Zealand companies tend not to be the big brand names that you might find with American companies, for example, that are here in the Philippines. But we are not of the, apart from agriculture and dairy trade, apart from that, we tend to be at a smaller, more niche level. So we'll offer very sophisticated manufacturing or services company solutions for businesses here in the Philippines.
The second question, which I used to be the chairman of the Filipino-Indian Business Council for the longest time, and I did watch the trade and growth that happened in the 10 years that I was there. And my challenge was that we'd never be able to keep tab on how many businessmen are coming in and if they're investing or if they're trading. There was no way we could keep a tab on that. And that was my concern. So you also expressed it just now. In the last couple of years, you and the other people from the diplomatic community, have they ever considered, or even the Department of Trade, have they ever considered measuring that exchange? Like investors, is there a way that can happen?
Well, that's a really important question. You know, we of course we measure the products that cross over the border because we can measure those. It's a lot harder sometimes to measure some of the services examples I talked
Correct.
about. Let me give you an example. I mean, we have a New Zealand company here which offers design solutions for construction and engineering. And
which one is that?
It's called Steel Pencil. It's a very small company, but it's a good example of the sort of thing that is happening.
Right.
So they will send up essentially attachments, computer animated design is done here in the Philippines.
Right.
Really taking advantage of the business process outsourcing sector, this amazing sector of potential in the Philippines. And here's a New Zealand company that is able to take the strength of it in the Philippines to have these designs done by computer animated software operated by Filipino employees and then send that back to New Zealand and Australia for the clients. So it's quite hard to measure that because it's not crossing over a border. I mean, we know that company, but there are other companies that we might not always be aware of. What we can do is we can work with the Department of Trade and Industry, with our Business Council, with the Australia-New Zealand Chamber of Commerce, and we'll put on business forums to bring businessmen together. But there are other things we can do as well.
So all you can do is just create awareness of what's happening, but not really measure all the exchange and investment.
I think for us, you know, if we can create as much awareness as possible, and we say to the business people, come to us if you need help. You know, I have a trade promotion office in the embassy here in Manila. So if people want to do business between New Zealand and the Philippines, come to us and let us give you some advice. Let us suggest a partner for you. So that's I think what we have to do, and we have to offer as much help as we can.
Let me catch you on that. Offer some advice to investors and people who want to do business, New Zealanders who want to do business. What kind of advice are you thinking of in the last 5 or 6 months that you've been here? What recommendations do you have for these newcomers? What is that?
Well, one of the things, I mean, this question of awareness is the first question, and it's a really important one. You know, my sense coming from New Zealand is that the Philippines has a very positive reputation in New Zealand, but there's not a high degree of awareness yet. And that's changing.
Of the possibilities.
Of the possibilities here in the Philippines. Because I think that the possibilities are growing. And so awareness is the first question, really. And I mean, we're addressing that. We have, for example, at the end of this month, we'll send an IT delegation from the Philippines down to New Zealand. Filipino companies to meet with New Zealand companies and tell them what the opportunities are here in the Philippines. So I think the awareness is a key thing. I think business people can make decisions about investment. If we can make them aware of the possibilities here and sectors of potential and growth, then I think that's where we can best perform our role as government.
Good. So that's probably with BPAP or ICT that's going, the group that's going.
I think so. I think we're going to see more of that, you know. And one of the really helpful developments in New Zealand is we have a growing Filipino population in New Zealand. This is really important.
How much are they?
Well, we estimate getting towards 40,000 people. Now, that might not seem like a lot, but in New Zealand, that's nearly 1% of our population. So it's also the largest community from any Southeast Asian country.
No kidding. Even compared to Indians, I thought there's a lot.
It would be less than the Indian community.
It would be, yeah.
Yes, that's right. It would be less than. But if I talk about the ASEAN members, it's the largest. And it's also like India, it's a very important source of skilled labour in New Zealand. So you see Filipinos in IT, in accounting, in engineering, great engineers, and also on our dairy farms increasingly, spread throughout the country. And when I left New Zealand 3 months ago, a lot of people said to me that they had known the Philippines really through meeting Filipino people in New Zealand.
Just going there for
so I think if you extend that to business, as business people meet Filipino people, as they look to the Philippines, they will start to open their eyes to the possibilities, and I think that's where we can then help make a difference to them.
New Zealand business people coming in here, and you said there are lots of possibilities. Are you looking at possibilities in terms of us being a market or us being a source for you, for New Zealand? In what perspective is that?
Well, I think it's three things actually. I think it is both those things. And people often think about the business between us in terms of a market. It's a consumer market in
95
Philippines.
million Filipinos.
Exactly, or in New Zealand, you know, it's a smaller consumer market. But then there is also the question about, like I say, in the modern areas of trade where we can work
Services,
together,
yeah.
and we can even export to the region, whether it's China or it's Japan or it's other countries. I think we'll see more of that in the future. And then there's the third question about the source of labour. But I mean, on that one, I think it's important to say that, you know, the Philippines is a very important source of labour for us, but it's important that the Philippines retains its own talent as well. I think in New Zealand what we've found is that we have a population that, as I said, loves to travel. So we think we have maybe up to 1 million New Zealanders living overseas, out of a population of 4.5 million.
4.5, yeah.
We can't know for sure. Yeah. The Philippines has, I hear, something like 10 million people out of 92 million living overseas.
Right.
What we've experienced is that a lot of those people will work in Australia or in Europe, and then they will come back to New Zealand and bring skills with them. So it can benefit our country in a very holistic sense. Right. And maybe New Zealand in time can serve that kind of role for the Philippines, that the people coming to the Philippines, coming to New Zealand, will develop skills they can take back to the Philippines.
Can you cite me an example? Can you create a scenario of an executive or a
Well, I have the best example I can give you is one of my closest colleagues here in Manila. Our Trade Commissioner, Hernando Bernal, lived for 15 years in New Zealand, working for Air New Zealand and for other companies, and then came back to the Philippines and started up his own companies before becoming our Trade Commissioner last year. So I think it's a great example of someone that's been able to make the best of both countries, and I think it's great we have someone like that who can relate to the business culture in both of our countries as well.
Do you see any challenges in terms of how the government is structured here and the culture that is slightly different from New Zealand? Is that a challenge for New Zealand businessmen coming in, or that's not? Which of the two?
Yeah. Well, I mean, wherever you do business, there are going to be challenges.
Right.
I mean, certainly as a government, we have very positive relations with the Philippines government.
On the bigger picture level.
So that's great. And I think we both have an interest in trying to boost business between our two countries. For our businesses, what I'm seeing is that a lot of them coming into the Philippines, their relationship in a business sense is with other businesses rather than providing services to government, whether that might be contracting or PPP projects, tends to be more business-to-business connections. And from what I've seen, that's been smooth. And you know, that's where I say we can try and help to let them know what the business culture is here, how they can best go about finding a partner, how they can best carry out their business.
Recently there was a discussion about making Philippines a little more competitive in terms of registering businesses and investing in here. Compared to Philippines, what's the tax structure, what's the investment structure in New Zealand? Is it easier, or what is the pro and con of that?
Well, we tend to have, I would say, it's a very transparent business environment.
Right.
And, you know, what you see is what you get. We have a company tax rate which I think is 30%.
Which is quite high.
Well, it's high, but it's not prohibitive to business. I think that's quite a usual level of tax compared to most of the developed countries. But one of the big advantages for business that I would point out for Philippines companies looking at New Zealand is that we don't have a lot of bureaucracy or,
in New Zealand.
or we say red tape. You tend to find, I mean, a typical example, if you ring up a government department in New Zealand and you need a permit or you need something processed, they will do it quickly and you will get good advice. So if I take, for example, our own embassy here in Manila, we have a large team of immigration officers who issue the visas for Filipinos travelling to New Zealand for business, for education. Those are turned around very quickly. That's the sort of business environment we have at both a government and a business level. So I think that it's actually a very easy place to do business. If you come down and you look and you find the right partner, you won't find that government regulation is
what areas are Filipinos going in and doing business? What are they doing in the New Zealand? Are they putting up small businesses, manufacturing? Where are the areas of possibility? What sectors and what industries?
Well, this is really only in a very early stage, really. That's emerging. I think what you see is There's not so much by way of Philippines business based in New Zealand. Yes, we have the local community, and the local community is involved in all areas of the economy.
Yeah.
We tend to be a nation of a lot of, we say, small and medium enterprise, not the really large corporations. So you've got Filipinos all through the economy there. Philippines companies, I think the relationship tends to be more either based here in the Philippines with New Zealand companies, or from our own bases. I mean, I'd like to encourage Philippines companies to come and look at New Zealand, but they don't necessarily have to put an office in New Zealand to do business with us. It really depends on the nature of the business, on the sector.
Other than IT and shared services and, of course, bananas and pineapples, what are other areas that we can do business with New Zealand? Other products,
Yeah, sure. Well, I mentioned the energy sector. I think that's been a sector that's attracted a lot of attention in the Philippines recently. We have in New Zealand, we have something in common with the Philippines in respect of a lot of volcanic activity underneath the Earth's crust. So we have geothermal energy.
You have like 4,000 earthquakes a year, I hear.
Well, that's true.
400, yeah?
Well, we do. We have a few too many of them, but it's something we have in common with the Philippines as well. But there is one positive spin-off of that. We have a lot of geothermal steam under the ground that can be converted into energy. So this has been for New Zealand a really key source of energy, and in the Philippines as well. The Philippines is, I think, the second largest generator of geothermal energy in the world. And so we've had an involvement in that sector going back to the 1970s when it first started. A lot of our engineers and consultants over that time, in the last 40 years, have been involved in that sector, and I see that continuing into the future, because the Philippines will look to expand its energy generation, and including looking at geothermal. So it's not a product we can drop on our foot, but it is a very interesting business opportunity, and I see that in hydroelectricity as well. Again, that's New Zealand's largest form of generating electricity. Our lakes in the South Island are a source of water that is fed into the dams to create electricity. It's the same here in the Philippines. So.
Good. So there's a good opportunity there, no? So, Ambassador, how about making New Zealand a home, going and living there for good? How easy is that?
Well, it is easy. It's relatively easy. I mean, we have our immigration requirements, and we apply those rigorously. We find that a lot of Filipinos are coming to study in New Zealand. That's happening more and more. We are finding that Filipinos are coming out for 1 year or 2 year working visas. After they've had 5 years, they can apply for permanent residency. So you've started to see much more of that in the last 8 years to 10 years, and that's been behind the growth in this Filipino community.
And tourist visas and business visas are easy. What are the processes?
Yeah, look, it's a very transparent process. You can apply to the embassy; it will be turned around very quickly. So we encourage Filipino people to come and visit New Zealand.
We are going there very soon. Now I understand that we are both competing for the same tourists, New Zealand and the Filipinos, and you have a very nice campaign, and we have a good one too. No? Which of the two do you like more?
Well, I see a lot of similarities between them, actually.
Yeah.
I really do. We have this campaign, we call it 100% Pure.
Yeah.
And the idea really is to capture some of the things that New Zealand is known for around the world. The scenery, the clean, green environment.
I hear the water is really nice. Yeah.
It is. You've seen the video, right? So,
no, but I've heard it. Like it's first-hand information. Yeah.
Oh, it is. It's fantastic. I mean, the South Island, where I am from, is home to some absolutely stunning lakes and mountains, and it's exactly as you see in the video.
Right.
But that's been for us a very successful campaign that we've launched around the world.
100% pure.
100% pure, and we have, tourism for us is one of our biggest sectors. We have 2.6 million people visit New Zealand each year. We're only a population of 4.5 million. Yeah. But when I look at the Philippines, and I see the campaign that's been launched just in the last weeks, I love it. Yeah. It's more fun in the Philippines, and I've noticed, in in the 3 months I've been here, how popular that slogan has been. Why is that, I wonder? I think people see some truth in it.
It's so open.
It captures the spirit of this country, and that's been my experience. So I think that it's a great idea for launching a campaign.
I'm sure DTI and everybody who is promoting that campaign would love this, what you just said. So we'll capture that and send it to DTI. Ambassador, let's take a break, for a few minutes. Then we'll come back and talk to you about the lighter side of living and working in New Zealand. And we also have another guest. This is a surprise guest. He is the chairman of the Filipino-New Zealand Chamber Business Council, Mr. Harold Wolf, who was here a couple of weeks ago. Then we'll go to the lighter side of living and working with New Zealand.
Fantastic.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay watching. This is Expat Insights. I'm your host, Raju Mantian, and we are with Ambassador Levermore from New Zealand. Good evening. Welcome back to Expat Insights. I'm your host, Raju Mantian. We are with the Ambassador of New Zealand, Ambassador Reuben Levermore, and we also have another guest this time, the Chairman of the Filipino-New Zealand Business Council, Commodore Harold Wolf, who was here a couple of weeks ago, and he's the Chairman of PNZ. Commodore Harold Wolf, welcome to Expat Insights one more time.
Raju, thank you for inviting me again. I do have to make one clarification. The last time I was here, several weeks ago,
yes,
I was still the chairman of the Philippine Business Council. However, after all those years, I kind of pass on the role to someone else, and again, now I'm the vice chairman of the Business Council.
Oh, this happened like this morning?
No, a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, so you're the vice chairman of the Filipino-New Zealand Business Council.
I've been a member of the Business Council for about a little bit past 10 years, and member of the board for about 10 years too. And I've been on the role as chairman, vice chairman, director, most of the time as chairman.
Yeah.
And like yourself, I think you know that being a past chairman of the Indian Business Council, you held that reign for many, many years, and one day you just had to give it up.
Yeah,
and
you get exhausted. You get exhausted from doing social work.
Right. But still the love is there, and as a vice chairman, that was the agreement. Okay, Philip will be the new chairman. I'm the vice chairman. My passion is still with the council, and just like nothing happened, I'm there to help the Business Council, the ambassador, trade.
Harold, in the years that you have been with the council, how much has the trade increased? How much is it today? And per annum, how much has it increased? How much has it grown?
That is actually a difficult question to answer. Maybe the ambassador is better to answer that question, because we don't have really have gauged that amount and measure that. Yeah? We work very close with New Zealand Trade, with the Trade Commissioner.
Yeah.
And we were very close in getting New Zealand businessmen tied up with Filipino businessmen or companies, and vice versa. The measurement, I think trade has all those numbers. We don't have those numbers.
Ambassador, how much is it? How much is the bilateral trade between?
So the total trade in both directions comes to it's New Zealand 850 million, which is about US 700 million.
Yeah.
Or probably about 30 billion pesos.
30 billion pesos too.
So it's a significant trade.
In favor of New Zealand? In favor of
yes, it is. Probably mainly because of that large volume of dairy products.
Right. Milk and beef and corned beef and stuff. Fantastic. So what is the council and what's the embassy doing to increase? What are the actual steps that you gentlemen are taking so that the trade and the investment between the two countries grows? Any events, any programs, any strategies?
Well, the council has been working very closely with trade. When the new people come in, usually trades notifies us, so we can make contact with those people. And we're probably more on the ground to help those people meet the right partners in the country.
So matchmaking.
Matchmaking, if you will. I think that's probably the most correct word.
Yeah.
We do get involved in other things as business councils do, and that is helping in other areas. We have, every year, we actually donate money to a charity of one kind or another. for the last 2 years, actually, we have adopted a charity that is very dear to us, which is Operation Smile.
And I wish you brought pictures of that.
I wish there's a whole video, and maybe
This is about
I can send that
teeth
to you.
and lips and stuff.
It's
is that
actually
the one?
helping people.
Or the hair lip.
The hair lip,
correct.
right.
I've heard about that.
New Zealand doctors that come here, they volunteer their time. They devote to actually help Filipino children, and they see hundreds of them, hundreds. And the group actually was our guest at our PNCBC general membership meeting a couple of weeks ago. And definitely I will send you some videos on that, because it's very impressive what they're doing, and we're actually proud that the council is actually supporting that program.
Sir, you said there's an IT mission going to New Zealand at the end of this month, no? And did you want to talk about that, or did you already mention it? Do you want to invite my viewers to join that?
Well, I think that the plans are pretty well established for the IT mission, so we just hope that some good opportunities come out of it.
All right.
But if I could say, Raju, just picking up on that point that Harold made, I mean, as the ambassador here, I'm really pleased to see our businesses support some of the charities or development needs here in the Philippines. I think
these are NZ businesses, New Zealand businesses.
Yeah, both Philippines and New Zealand businesses,
both.
Through the Business Council, supporting that great work. And you know, as an embassy, we have an aid program, so we're involved in projects such as in disaster preparedness, support, yes, that's right, and also in developing the dairy sector here in the Philippines. We have scholarships for students to come to New Zealand, and we have a lot of other smaller projects. So that's an important part of our work. I mean, I've talked a lot about trade, but I think it's important to recognise that our contribution to the Philippines also is in helping the Philippines and its development needs as well. And I'm really pleased that the Business Council are able to support that.
On that note, sir, I'd like to take you back a year when the earthquake happened in Christchurch. And I'm sorry about that. No? So I hope everything's okay there.
Thank you.
And was the partnership or the support that Philippines and Filipino NGOs provided you that time, was that good enough? And what's the situation there today?
Well, we have, I mean, I guess the first thing is this is unfortunately something that New Zealand and the Philippines have in common. We're both vulnerable to
there
earthquakes.
There are pros and cons of it,
And, you know, we're on this Pacific rim of fire, so earthquakes are a common occurrence. We didn't have an earthquake of that size in New Zealand since about the 1930s. So, I mean, yes, there was a large loss of life. There were about 200 people nearly were killed in the earthquake, including 11 Filipino nationals as well. And but one of the ongoing impacts is really the impact on Christchurch as a city, because the central business district has had to be closed off for the last year in order to be able to bring down buildings that have been so severely damaged that they can't be left standing. It's no longer safe. So it's had a big impact on one of our major cities. And that rebuilding process, which is now underway, is going to take years. So I think we will see a lot of activity and a lot of disruption, but it's happening, and it's going to be something that's a big focus for our government. I think we'll probably see Filipino workers come in and contribute to that earthquake rebuild as well.
Well, I hope that the Christchurch gets back on its feet very, very quickly and things come back to normal. So, Ambassador and Chairman Wolf, I'm done asking about the business side of New Zealand. I want to give you a picture on the lighter side of life in New Zealand. Tell me things on the street. I hear that all New Zealanders do something that we Filipinos cannot. There's one thing that you guys do that we cannot. You all drive on the wrong side of the road.
Well, that's I suppose, you know, we drive on the left side of the road, so we have to get used to that coming here, of course, in the Philippines. Otherwise, it can cause some real problems. But, you know, this is something we have in common with the the other countries in the British Empire, generally we drive on the left side of the road.
Okay.
I don't know if it's the same in India or not.
It's the same in India. We
So
drive on the left
that's
side of the road.
almost something we inherited from our colonial masters.
Also, there is a strange relationship that you have with Australia. So you want to just profile that relationship, like how happy are you together? The people down under and the people under the down under.
I think it all depends if it is football season or not.
It's football season.
Rugby season.
I think Harold captures it really well, actually, because
It's just
we have a great relationship with Australia. I mean, the truth is that no two countries are closer than New Zealand and Australia.
Yeah.
We have a friendly rivalry, and
Yeah.
you see that on the sports field.
Okay.
But sometimes I think people mistake the friendly rivalry for something more serious. It's not the case. We've gone to war beside each other, never against each other. We work together internationally. We work together very closely, in fact, here in the Philippines, because we have this Australia-New Zealand Chamber
I know,
of
that's why
Commerce.
it's called the ANZ.
But we have a lot of jokes between us.
Yeah.
But
Do you have one?
it's not very serious. I think you have one.
I don't
actually.
have one. I don't have one. What I want to know. What I want to know.
Actually, in New Zealand, we claim that New Zealand has 3 islands.
It's 3 islands.
Three
okay.
islands, right.
What are the 3 islands?
North Island, the South Island, and Australia.
The West Island, we call it. That's the West Island.
Ambassador and Harold Wolf. So, what kind of, what do you want to do? Your post here, your post at the Chamber of Council will soon end. What kind of mark do you want to leave behind? What impression do you want us to have of Ambassador Levermore when he does his job and goes back home?
Well, you know, for me, I come here and build on the work of people that have gone before me and on the work of my team here at the embassy.
Right. Yeah.
You know, I feel that relations between New Zealand and the Philippines, they're positive. Yes, we can do more. I will contribute to that in my own modest way. I think one of the best things that we can try and do is look at opportunities just to promote awareness of New Zealand.
Yeah.
And this is why being on the show today is an opportunity I'm very grateful for.
Right. How about you, Harold?
Actually, the Business Council is a very small group,
Right.
and we average between 80 to 100 members. At this point, we have 88 members. We're trying to increase it back to 100. And it's related that some people leave, some people come, and so on. It's a very nice group. We're inviting people to join us. We have one advantage over all the other business councils, is that we meet at the embassy. We're between the
you have great New
embassy
Zealand food
and trade,
Yeah.
and all of our events, our bi-monthly events,
Yeah.
are
Once a month.
actually, every 2 months.
Every 2 months.
They're held at the residency of the New Zealand ambassador. Very nice.
Yeah.
Our fees to join the Business Council are the lowest that you can ever think, and if I'm allowed to say that, or to
Cheap.
mention,
Yeah, okay. Sorry,
well,
I'm kidding. Yeah.
I don't like to use the word cheap. Less expensive.
Less expensive.
Okay. But we charge for a regular membership is 4,500 pesos a month. For a business or a corporate membership is 6,500 a month.
Okay.
But
So they can find you on www.anz. Philippines, anzphilippines.com.
yes, actually, there's a website also. We're on Facebook as PNCBC.
Yeah. Ambassador and Chairman Wolf, I'm happy to have had you here. And if there's anything you want to say to the Filipino community or to the people who are making this relationship work, this is your moment and that's your camera. And 100% pure New Zealand, may we really grow together. So anything you want to say?
Well, I mean, really happy to be here in the Philippines. We think we've got a lot of potential together. I think that, you know, one of the things that makes relations between New Zealand and the Philippines so easy are simple things. The fact that we can speak English together, the fact that we both share, I think, a similar sense of humour.
Yeah, we do?
We do. I've noticed this in the Philippines. I think that people have a lot of spirit and a lot of sense of fun.
We are always laughing.
And very friendly, and New Zealanders are the same as well. So we welcome people to come and visit New Zealand or to be involved with New Zealand here in the Philippines.
Thank you very much. And in Tagalog, we call mabuhay. I don't know what you say. In New Zealand, you go haka haka. How about you, Harold?
Our website for the Philippine New Zealand Business Council, in short PNCBC, is www.pncbc.com. Check on our website. On the website are all the information on who to contact, where to contact, all the phone numbers. We welcome every member. Filipinos or Kiwis or anyone else that is interested in providing trade and assistance between New Zealand and the Philippines, you're all welcome. Please join us.
Thank you very much for being on
Thank you.
Expat Insights, Harold.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for being on
Thank you,
Expat
Rashid.
Insights.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Chief.
Next week on Expat Insights, we'll have the Ambassador of Australia, and we are going to ask him about these people if they said it, whatever they said was true about New Zealand. So thank you for watching Expat Insights. Good night and mabuhay.